Welcome everybody. We are TableBreakers. How you doing? We are these normal scheduled program. Unfortunately, uh, did not uh, did not come to fruition. Bear, the Gen X GM, was not feeling well last night. I told him to rest, and yeah. Uh, so yeah, the he is taking a much needed rest. And yeah, so we are going to be going into part two of uh, our look here, looking at regions. So we'll start off with TCG. TCG, how was your week? How you doing?
Doing pretty good. My week wasn't too bad. Pretty slow.
And working on anything fun?
My book.
What book?
Specifically, random generation tables, which worked out perfectly for this timing because it was the region and random island generation tables.
Nice. So yeah, we're something we're kind of getting into right now. So excellent. Kai.
Yeah.
How have you been since Monday?
I have attempted sleep.
What?
I said attempted, didn't actually accomplish. I fail at simple tasks. One of those is sleeping.
That happens. That happens a lot. So 1 second here. I thought this was set up, and I guess I have to go set up individually every time I do it over on the Rumble.
Yeah, apparently it no longer connects to YouTube.
Well, yeah, I'm using StreamYard, so I thought you had everything. And
I honestly don't know how it works. I'm still learning.
Okay. So let me go in and do some edits. So yeah, pull that off. Yeah.
Forgive us, everyone. We are having slight technical difficulties.
No. So you said you've been working on tables. What kind of tables have you been working on?
Random generation for islands and the ecosystems within each of the islands that are within each of the regions of the world.
Okay. So what kind of what kind of stuff are we looking at?
Well, for example, beneath the red sun is a hot, arid desert. So when you, if you roll that you're beneath that sun, you will roll up desert-like environments. I only have 5 currently. I probably should add more, but it's desert with average desert life, just a desert, desert with, I forgot what, and of course, desert that does have a river, and desert that is a lush oasis. And I feel like I need to see about adding more, but I can't think of a better way to describe desert. While beneath the purple sun, you will find more icy environments, but you also will find a lot of hot springs. Like the highest percentage of hot springs you can be found in the world are beneath the purple sun. Interestingly enough.
Okay.
There's also, I've been working on mountains. I mean, this isn't directly to region, but I've also been working on mountains that have potential for goodies inside of them, a few plot hooks for the GM. It's all I've directly been working on. But I've been trying to think of ways to describe more than just the few I have for individual. Like I said, I have about 5 for each individual section of the world. And I've been trying to find ways to describe more types of desert, for example, beneath the red sun. Because, yes, they are a Egyptian steampunk people, but maybe I could add a couple more types of desert. Like on one island, you'll find a sandy Egyptian-like desert, but in another one, you'll find an arid, rocky Nevada-like desert. And I should say, which makes for the creation of different regions and the stuff and the different terrains you'll find in them can be very interesting and can also be a very in-depth process if you're willing to make it so. The tables I made up so far are just to keep things usable as is, but I am thinking about expanding on them because there is so much potential within how you describe an area that the more potential there is, the more freedom I feel you give the GM, even if he doesn't decide to roll. Having something there he can read off gives him much more freedom in what he can make versus, I mean, yeah, you can imagine whatever you want, but if you have a good idea of what was there to begin with, it gives you the freedom to expand on that real easily versus having to come up with everything on the spot.
Okay. And what type of issues have you ran in with the generation?
Coming up with more than just a couple of descriptions. As I'm just one person, sometimes doing more than just a couple of things is actually honestly very hard. Like I just came up with desert with life, desert spring, desert with river, and oasis, which, yeah, 5 is kind of okay in my opinion, but there is so much potential for more. But trying to describe it as Baron disappears, trying to describe it properly so it's workable in more than just my head is not easy. So the real problem I've been having is, how do I describe more than just a simple, oh, well, this is a desert? But how do I also not go straight into, well, here's each individual rock. Here's each individual pebble of sand, or grain of sand or whatever. So I unfortunately tend to lean more towards the lack of knowledge side, which I think is not always bad, but as Kai has pointed out a couple times, not necessarily a good thing either. And I think this is one of those times that it's not necessarily a good thing to be lack of information. Try to expand on those tables a little bit more so there's a little more to choose from to begin with. But doing the description and trying to make sure I don't go overboard, because that is possible too, it's not real easy.
Fair enough.
All right. That's, yeah, and that's definitely something to look at. And sorry, give me a second here. Why is it not showing me? I'm sorry. I'm trying to
No,
get
it's okay.
Rumble's beans. That's all right. We just won't. At this point, I just won't go to Rumble because it's being dumb. So I don't know
I
what's
was about
going
to
on.
say, get Kai started, and then you'll have a few minutes.
That's
Right.
look. Once
What
I
do
get
you?
started, but I'm like a bad mode. I'm like a bad engine. It takes a while to get me going, though. I'm always passive for a bit.
As so, hi. When you are looking at doing different types, because what we're looking at basically tonight is we're looking at regions with specifically looking at mountains. So and with that, it can, create a barrier, also create a sense of isolation How do you get the players to really sink into like a mountainous type of setting?
Well, it depends what kind of mountain we're looking at. Some young uplift mountain that's very tall. Tall, spiky. It gives you that almost like that Rocky Mountains or the or some fjords based thing. Looking at like a volcanic mountain range or some weathered massive hills like the Appalachians or the Atlas Mountain ranges. It's that wonderful sense of, I guess, the idea that you can see them so far off, but you don't really get to like realize how far off as you're approaching and going, how long are we driving slash walking slash riding to get to there? And I guess because of the fact that we have so many of them are dominate our fantasy worlds and our fantasy settings, that it really is like, it's hard if you can't describe staring up at something that just rises and rises higher and higher above you. If you can't describe deep valleys, I had cold rivers, weird forests, and the fact that you're never quite sure what's over that next. I guess actually it kind of uses the phrase of like, what makes us all adventure is, to go see what's over the next hill. Well, the mountain is the next hill, the big scary hill. You have other hills or you have like cases of the Lonely Mountain where you can just go, no, it's one mountain in the middle of nowhere, or just it's fun. Trying to like sell it to my players isn't too hard because they know mountains are where riches are, where isolation is, where dwarves live, where barbarians hide because civilization likes the flatlands. Like, you're going off into the real wilds. It's like where things are deadly and dangerous, where you have to like, oh, I'm traveling heavy. No, you're dumping things. And like, it's it is that great, wonderful divider. And I guess I don't have a problem selling mountains because I can paint a really good mountain, be it the Matterhorn, be it the Appalachians, be it anywhere, be it the Rockies. Please just save yourself time. Go look at a picture of a mountain and then describe it. Describe it well. Describe everything. Describe bridges over valleys, and endless caves and crags and other weird things, because there's so much hiding in there. Oh, because there's always an orc tribe, goblins, barbarians, bandits, gold, plenty of gold, diamonds, rubies, gold, and gold and more. To almost quote the song.
And that was actually going to be my next thing, is how do you integrate the minerals and gems into it, and how do you keep that balanced?
Then we'll put a pin in that and come back.
Okay.
Come back to that.
Pinned.
We're putting a pin into it. Good. And you're right, Six Nations. It is simply that simple description, and it's beautiful to work from it. And the thing is that you don't need too much, but if you do say, hey, look, it's got a snow-capped peak, well, that already tells you certain things. It's going to be a certain way. Is it a whole string of mountains, like a massive ridge, like almost like a wall of the world? You're already painting what this is. If it isn't a lonely mountain, a mountain, well, certain it's the Lonely Mountain at that point. Well, you've already given it a name. Is it does it have an interesting description when you paint it? Like is it like three colors? Like when you see like this upthrust of light colored rock and this other layer of dark rock that comes in at a weird angle and gives it a crazy peak. And you can see snow and light. The first light of dawn catches the top of the snow-covered peak, and you can see it, see snow like just drifting off of it, giving it an ethereal look to it. Is it always surrounded by clouds? Is there or is it just some weird flat top for some strange reason you don't know? Because obviously modern geology isn't quite known yet to your characters, or at least really isn't. So, is that a dormant volcano? Is that? You don't really know. You just know, oh, great, the great fire god has woken up and he's going to consume us all as 2 cities disappear under a plume of ash. You don't know. But the thing is that but for the last 300 years, it's been beautiful. As far back as anyone knows, that's been a beautiful cone mountain that just rises up out of the nowhere. And it's just this endless, oh yes. And the thing is, okay, the geology here should scream a lot. It's like, you should, okay, just trying to paint where that water is coming in at that allows for both the waterfall and the additional stream overflow that reaches out into the foreground. And then there's still another stream coming out off another mountain. So you have this like almost this valley where you can see the water probably coming in a sufficient volume. So that way, if it's overflowing the little basin, and oh god, I would want to be in this wonderful world, this wonderful area. Just from the dwarf in me is screaming that this is what I would want to be, just to because I can't see any image anymore. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I took the image out.
I was trying to just play with it, trying to describe this in so many different ways. Like there's like you can make it work for every character, everything, and I'm sorry. I'm done talking now.
No, it's okay. I tried to switch it, and of course it's being goofy. Do that. Then you have something like this.
A happy little lake with some happy little trees.
Yeah, I mean that's what this looks like. This looks exactly like a Bob Ross type thing.
And remember, your players are having little mistakes, and they're part of the world too.
Got all different kinds of mountains and now something like this.
By looking at it like that, though, you can tell you're probably in a. Oh God, I'm gonna stop looking at this from a geologist's point of view. I'm gonna shut up because, you can tell there's be so much that's gonna be a geologically unstable region because of all the sharp, pointy things. Like everywhere is going to be dangerous. Rock slides everywhere, but there's so much wealth potential there. A dwarf is going to go, this is virgin land, ready for our abuse.
I'm going to dig a hole.
I'm going to dig a right in the corner of it.
Diggy hole, diggy hole.
Diggy hole.
I'd love to see Kai's reaction to the fact I have mountains on some of my islands.
It speaks about certain things because, I mean, okay, so part of me wonders, part of me knows I'll never find out, but because it's impossible, but there's that part that goes, what's creating these floating islands that have a massive upthrust of geological just matter, of stone that's being forced into mountains on top of these floating islands, because you don't have the usual continental uplift. You don't have that thrust of just continents colliding and crashing and pushing up, or you don't have the volcanism. It's so something's creating these massive geological structures, and it's hidden by the planet below, by the fact that you're orbiting a gas giant, which means something complex is happening down deeper in the star, in this massive gas giant that's creating these things that we're floating between. It would be so much fun just to go, this is definitely not an adventure. The character who asks these kind of questions is definitely not I'm out there being Yarhar sky pirating. This is the guy who goes, no, I'm going to spend the rest of my 1,000-year lifespan studying this floating rock phenomena and going, are we actually from this world? Probably not, but still questions.
You said phenomena, and I don't know why, but my brain immediately went phenomena. Okay.
I know.
So So circling back, and we'll start with Kai here. How do you balance out the minerals and gems and things along those lines if they decide I'm gonna dig that, I'm gonna dig a hole and I'm gonna find stuff?
Well, the thing here is that that's okay. Congratulations, you transitioned from wanderer to civilized being that now establishes things. Now there's so much more to worry about. Yes, you have gems, but okay, they're uncut, they're unthing. Do you have a market for them? What's the point if you don't have a market or a use for all this gold and all these gems and all of these treasures that you're pulling out of the rock? You don't really have anything to do with it. It's just a pile of really cool sticks and stones that you have just lying around in heaps. Anyone who plays Dwarf Fortress for a while is like, okay, if I don't have a use for all this, it's just shit sitting in a vault, and I have piles of it. But now but you can build a whole kingdom around the idea of, well, we craft it and we make it, but now you're an actual, like, I don't really balance it because of the fact that if they want to spend all their time mining and searching, well, now they've invited themselves to actually care about the rest of the world around them, because now they need to find a market for all this stuff. There's no De Beers, there's no international market. You just magically walk to a vendor and dump your Skyrim style boatload of steel daggers into their lap and go, please give money, please. And then they and then you go and recycle this endlessly. Dump iron daggers, receive ore, give daggers, and then repeat endlessly. Well, no, you need to actually have a place that wants this grant, that wants this stone, that wants this gold, that wants these diamonds. Now, mind you, you've now, like, say you have a diamond mine. That's fantastic. The player's like, oh, we have a diamond mine. Heck yes. These dwarves are happy. And who knows, they might have, they've cornered the market in their part of the world on the resurrection fund. Other adventurers from around the world come to your place because they want to bring back their dead friend Bob, who died again, and he needs to be brought back. But don't worry, you have a heaping pile of gems. Now you can trade. Now the world is interesting. The more, I have no problem with my players getting a massive excess of resources, because it opens up, well, congratulations, it's capitalism. We're here, it's going to be fun. And I don't have to depend on some magical god bullshit. It's simply, I have a pickaxe and I have a will, and I am now wealthy. And it's going to be so much fun.
Well, and then there's the third thing that is really interesting to look at is, we've looked at the natural barriers, we've looked at the resources. Now now this is where the GM can turn it up to 11 if he wants to. He can look at weather patterns. And then he can look at natural disasters like avalanche, rock slide,
earthquakes,
earthquakes. Steep
blizzards,
cliffs. Steep cliffs is a great one. And how to handle that, and how to be able to balance that with what we have going on with everything. So definitely, that's definitely a big thing to look at with this. And you're looking at weather patterns, you're looking at everything from snow to fog, ice. You can, anybody, I hate to put you on the spot, but TCG, you probably know better than anyone exactly mountains, just from where you live.
We get weather directly off the mountains. Even we live surrounded by mountains, so we get weather directly off the mountains a lot. If it's snowing on the mountains, it's almost always snowing down here.
And therefore,
mountains affect the weather around the area a lot.
So on in what you know of, and I'm going to start with you with weather patterns here, because you've got some firsthand knowledge from where you live. What type of weather would you be looking at coming off those mountains that might pose a threat to the players, or something that they'll have to plan for?
Heavy snow during the winter, that is a big one around here. We can easily get a foot of snow overnight, which can really screw over a bunch of player characters if they're sleeping outside. Another good one is hail around here, because the mountains are tall enough. They can sometimes turn rainstorms, if it's cold enough, into a pretty good hailstorm. And then during the summer, though there is a lot of wind, we live in the middle of a lake, but it's still, we live next to a lake, but it's the middle of a bowl. So the mountains hang on to the humidity in the summer, and it's a pretty humid area.
So how would that affect things from a game standpoint?
Well, for the humidity, that would definitely affect your fatigue. If you're not used to it, you fatigue easily in the summer around here. I've personally seen it from people who didn't grow up here. Just, all right, I'm done. I've been walking for 2 hours. Dude, it's only been 2 hours. I've walked all day before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then the big thing that I think you missed, that I can think of off the top of my head, is in the spring. You have all that snow, all the snow melt.
Yeah, and we get a lot of swamp. Not where we mostly walk, but if you're out in the wilderness, you can get some swampy areas. I know I've lost a couple pairs of shoes.
Oh, it's all solid.
You're right.
Squish. Oh no.
Yep. Yep.
So Kai, with the weather patterns and things along those lines in your games, how has that factored into your gameplay?
Decent enough that my players learn just that they actually I like it. Like I won't lie. I kind of look more at the macro side of it, with the idea of the rain shield, the mountains acting as rain shields and drier areas beyond that, so my players know that. So I'm more looking at, like, I guess I'm more used to not the day-to-day side of things, but looking at the more regional weather side, and how those mountains play havoc with everybody. And so I honestly need to study more about the local effects, because I hadn't thought as much as I should have. But listening to Crafting's effects of it, I hadn't thought of that. I'm used to more looking at the Alps, the Alps, or various other farming sides of things. I just didn't think about the actual day-to-day side of it. Now I need to study more. I need to study a lot more. All right.
Uh-oh. We've given Kai ideas. His players are going to hate us. Well, and now that we've kind of established, it's kind of the weather patterns, now we can look at natural disasters. Some of the big ones that I named some of them, but there was one that I left off. And I myself, I love that there's a program called Homestead Rescue. And there's been quite a few times where they've had folks up on mountains, and the big thing they've had to do is clear trees out from around the homestead because of fire. That can be a huge factor in in a natural hazard and disaster type situation. Looking at smoke, looking at the fire, looking during the winter, looking at avalanches, looking at rock slides during the spring. So how do all those kind of factor in when you're setting up travel for your players? I'll let whoever wants to grab it first go.
Well, what I usually do is factor in a warning avalanche or landslide to the characters. You know, like they're coming up on an icy mountain and off in the distance they blatantly see an avalanche. Or if they're coming through a nice rocky area, they'll see the remnants of a very recent landslide. Or in one case, the players weren't being idiots. I decided just to scare them. The landslide happened overnight and it came within feet of hitting them. So I like to factor in a warning for the characters for the area, but I don't always put it in every mountainy area they go to, since some mountains can actually be pretty stable without a good reason. Snowy mountains, well, okay, snowy mountains, you always want to be careful of an avalanche.
Same thing with heavily with lots of rain in your forecast, causing your wonderful landslides and collapses on that side as well.
Yeah.
I also like and the thing is that you do have a little bit of warning, or you don't. Usually, it's a player who causes these disasters because they're doing something stupid. Bringing
that's why they get the warning.
Right. The glacier, the heavy snowpack up on the mountains, lots of heavy rain has been there. Precarious, eroded mountain. This pass has got a lot of precarious rocks all over it. It's describing that terror, that terror of what's about to happen to you. That if it's the Chekhov's gun of the environment, and just setting up the guys. Don't play with explosives. Don't play with loud noises. Don't do this.
Don't even sneeze.
Yeah. Or simply, having the fun of having a volcano on the horizon, and whenever we're going back to storytelling thing here of if you describe it, it has to have a value or not, but preferably because your players are going to take note of it. Because if you make note of it, your players are going to make note of it. Because you've now made it important. If they see it's been snowing heavily on the mountains, it's like you've been rained on, but it's cold up there. You can see the snowpack getting heavier, and you're sitting here thinking to yourself, something goes wrong. We're all about to get buried, or it's been raining too long. Something goes wrong. Those potential earthquakes have been tremblers. You can hear the rocks shifting and moving. That should tell you it's unstable. And you should be potentially afraid of what's happening. You can hear the wind rustling through cracks in the mountains, telling you that there's probably caves. There's probably something, someplace dark for animals, monsters, or the Underdark to be waiting there. Just waiting, and it's just that horrible, that wonderful sense of being able to paint that. If you do something wrong, it's going to probably backfire. Or, if you paint the idea of this is a volcanically active area, you also know that at any point something probably will go wrong. Because as a GM, if you say there's volcanoes, there's going to be something that's going to happen with them. Either that, or you're just painting a really beautiful picture of the Pacific Northeast, where, oh hey, look, there's volcanoes everywhere. It's okay. They're just minor little things until it's not. Or, it's all about just trying to make sure that you don't give too many details, but make sure that they're all at least valuable, and that the players can probably be the sole people you're going to beat up. But then again, you can also use it as tools for your monsters, your encounters, your giants that are living in the mountains. Because I know we haven't touched on things that live up here, but this is the realm of gods and giants and titans and monsters. So they're probably going to throw rocks at you, because this is historically in myth and legend where all the fun things happen, where you're going to get pummeled by a rock. And by having plenty of them around, now you have plenty of tools to eventually just have, out of nowhere, a boulder crush your elf, because it's Tuesday and your player was unfortunately targeted.
Well, and actually, you
Double
say
barrel
that,
shotgun in the mountain. Ah!
or you're looking at low level players, going through like a mountain area, you know, oh, I'm gonna throw a thunderstone to really like get them like distracted. No, you don't want to do that. Don't throw the thunderstone. Yeah, no, do not use the shatter spell because that could lead to really bad things. But you touch on something I was going to bring up next, which you have a really good. It's almost like you've read this or something. No,
No, I am illiterate. I do not read anything ahead of time.
but the thing that you're also looking at is the creatures that have adapted to the terrain. You know, anything from mountain goats, eagles, to giants, or the GM's favorite toy,
Vikings?
Durgans.
Oh yeah, dragons.
Dragons. There be dragons in there in them there hills, laddie. And basically, and that's another what I would call a natural, almost like a natural hazard, is due to having those animals there. Because mountain goats are not the nicest things. When they come up against something or they feel like they're back against the wall. You're also looking at things like mountain lions, bobcats. What else? The crafting. Help me out here. What other kind of animals would we be looking at?
Oh, yeah, bears, mountain lions, bobcats. What else? Deer. Deer love it up here. We do have a couple in the right areas. We do have the occasional mountain goat, but I'm not entirely sure if those were plants or not. We're supposed to, not anymore, have antelope, gazelle, the American version of that at any rate. Let's see here, what else? Skunks, raccoons.
So it could actually be anything from a harmless type animal to do not interfere in the affairs because you are small and taste good with ketchup.
Yep.
So basically anything from like even looking at like mice, rats, even down to that level. You could even have that in those areas, all the way up to, like I said before, the dragon. So I mean, you're looking at a huge swath here of all kinds of fauna that are here that you can really play with. And I would even count, you said bears, I would even throw wolves in there. Because there are wolves that do live, either at the base of mountains or a little bit up in the mountain.
I just forgot to mention they do live here.
Okay.
Can you imagine the fun of what mountains are going to cause with weather and other creatures if you're flying like a flying airship, depending on their altitude, on how far up they're able to fly? And I don't know, but certain people have probably flown into certain cities in the in the mountains, and will tell you that it's not comfortable. And can you imagine trying to fly a slow moving boat through that doesn't have that's not pressurized, that doesn't have the ability to climb over the mountain, that has to try to navigate around the mountain range, try to find passes that it can actually navigate through safely, and being just bracketed and roughed up by all the wind and weather. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to think about trying to fly a flying sailing ship through a mountain range. That just sounds misery inducing.
So in keeping with the theme here, we've talked about like the minerals and all that, but looking more at the resources, um, there are more than just precious gems and precious metal. You can also be looking at things like rare earth, uh, shelter, water, all different kinds of things that you can also that help expand the story and help bring in, especially in like a survival situation where you can actually bring those players in and be able to, essentially get them hooked in the story. Okay, who giggled? If you giggled, you have a comment.
No, I was more just laughing at chat. It's great. I love it. And
So,
yeah, I do like the idea of moving quickly and quietly. But then again, that requires a party to actually be quiet. And let's be honest, how often do our parties quiet? We usually have the most chinkiest, clunkiest retard in the group, who's the shiniest motherfucker who you can see from orbit. And the rest of the party, we are all stealth infiltrators. And the fighter and the paladin go, "Yep, so are we." Thump, 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 thump. You're like, "Oh my fucking Christ!"
that's when you pray you're high enough. That's when you pray you're high enough level that you can actually cast silence on them.
Yeah. Either that, or we tackle the paladin, I roll him around in mud, and he's like, and then the mud just falls off, and he goes back to being a shiny, clanky monstrosity. And we always kind of look at him and go, "Could you wear anything else?" "No, I am the most awesomest, amazing." Oh fucking god! You know what? We're just gonna start. We might as well just bring a marching band with us, so that way it's the only way we're louder. But I have my horse, and he is shiny and loud and big, and I am riding the horse, and I am loud and shiny and big. And then the fighter, I am also loud and shiny, and I have brought my shiny. And we're like, God, can any of you stealth? Can any of you move quiet? No. Okay,
And
cool. Hey, wizard. Yeah, are you gonna do anything stupid? Everything I do is stupid. Everything I do is loud and flashy and explosive. Do you have anything subtle? I'm a wizard. No.
Wait. Hold on.
I spent 15 years in wizard school. I ain't fucking being subtle for anything. I'm not wearing a 70s bathrobe that's glistening that's glistening with a hat 5 miles wide for nothing. I didn't pass to get this to be subtle. And everybody else is like, and you're one, the rogue and the ranger are both going, "Oh dear God, we're going to die. Why? The mountains will kill us." Because those 3 people are fucking here. Yep.
No. What you do is after you roll the paladin in the mud, and you ask, "Do you have anything that's not flashy or anything else?" He goes, "Well, I've got one thing. Prejudice shake." "Oh, look, he's clean now. I'm not the flashiest motherfucker anymore."
Just it's the idea of walking up there with magical spray paint and then just spray painting I spray painting your paladin and your fighter like I like your paladin and your fighter and your cleric as though they were freaking like you were a freaking redneck with a 20-year-old pickup truck, and you're trying to disguise it with 3-color paint jobs.
See, it's easy. The cleric is easy enough to do. You just have to go to a dwarven hold first, put the dwarven stone armor on him, and he just sounds like rocks that are moving. It's okay. You can get away with that. The other 2, nope.
See, the problem here is that when you're a loud, noisy thing, when you're a loud, bright, shiny, colorful thing moving in an environment where the color palette is gray, some green, but gray, you kind of stick out. And I can just like every goblin tribe and orc war band that's hiding up there, every drow raiding party, and every barbarian like hill tribe looking down there and seeing your party of mismatched weird freak jobs, color, shining in glory and all their glory and their battle standards, and everyone looking at them going, "Oh, that's just free money. That's just free money. We need to go down there and just that's free money walking into our." It's like it's the equivalent to free real estate. And come on, if we don't kill them, somebody else will. And then once the first fight happens, Wizard McBang Bang explodes everything, and suddenly we're now under half a mountain of debris. Landslides, avalanches, and don't worry, in 300 years, an archaeologist is going to come by and go, "There was a battle here at one time. We found their corpses in these frozen skeletons in discombobulated states, but this guy still looks shiny. I wonder what he was. Probably a paladin."
Well, we've talked about mountains, but typically once you come out of the mountains, you come into a couple of different biomes, I guess is the best way to put it. You either come into a heavily forested area, just due to the water runoff and everything else, or you could come into a desert type area. So making that transition, especially if you're doing like a desert, doing that transition from being, in the cold and everything else, going, to flipping it completely around, going into the extreme heat. How do you usually set the players up for that with their supplies and things like that that's available to them?
You encounter the wonderful realm of Fort Sacrifice, the last good place to buy anything before you venture off into the mountains. There are people who will warn you: do not take too much with you. You're about like you've just traveled across a miserable environment because nobody's actually a good cartographer yet, and nobody's been explained to you when you left the wonderful lush areas of the far eastern parts of this, and you traveled months across this dry, miserable environment. You really don't realize that you've been in a rain shadow the entire time. But now you're being told, yeah, all that stuff you brought, you don't want to carry all that when you go up into those mountains. And it's just that wonderful experience of realizing that most of us are not playing in an environment where we have, somebody who's done a long-term ecological and geological study on the area to tell you that you've been in that you've been living in this grand, wide, vast, treeless hellscape. And no one really explains why. He's like, "Oh, this is just a prairie. It's just wonderful." You don't realize that the mountains have been causing this the entire time. You really don't. And so you're just having this wonderful, like, people will draw maps, say this is the vast land, sea of flowers. This is the sea of shrubs, and then you see the trees, and you're thinking to yourself, "I'll just cut down some trees and live in the foothills." But then again, you gotta realize now you're in monster territory and you're about to get beaten senseless. I guess it's just that wonderful thing of most players don't realize it, and most people who really aren't, having access to a continent-wide communication system and mapping and accurate mapping and weather tracking probably don't realize that they're in a miserable, dry, like they think they're in an okay environment until they walk into a valley, which is now exceedingly hot, and because of the environment, there's just nothing here, and you're probably going to die here. And they're going to find your corpse here, because most players don't think about, honestly, when was the last time most of us who play actually asked, what's the local environment like? What's the local what's the local terrain like? Do I need to buy hot or cold weather gear? Did I pack good socks? Did I pack multiple socks? Did I pack enough clothes with me? Did I bring enough water? Because everyone just kind of goes, well, we have the survival skill. I forage for 4 hours, and I produce enough water and food to feed 2 other people besides myself. And we have 2 people, so that'll be enough for the entire party. We're fine. And I'm going, are you sure? Well, yeah, I can make a check. It'll be okay. And you start realizing, no, you're about to go into a land of cold, or a land of hot, or a land of dry, or a land of it's just too damn wet, and you're never going to find any wood to burn. And they're all like, well, and that's cool, but most kind of like watch like reading on the Oregon Trail and all the people trying to water that way. Those people are traveling about the same condition that players travel in, because most of us aren't playing where we have highways and good cities and good trade networks, and we assume that we're going to just be able to pull into town and go buy 30 days of food. That's not going to happen. Most people don't have that to spare to sell you, and to sell 8 people. So in essence, you're going to buy out a town of like 6 months of food, just so that way your adventuring party can have, can go out and have their fun. But no, I mean, I do, but it's one of those you should know, but you don't know unless there's been you're like consulting the average ranger and the average people who live in the area. And let's be honest, players barely ask what direction they're walking in, let alone anything else that might have it. So if you want to run that stuff, just recall your players don't ever ask questions. They don't know anything unless you tell them that they need to know, or you have that one or two players who know far too much about survival and then who, me?
You're the one that asks these type of questions. I'm sorry.
I do ask these questions.
I have said it at quite a few tables that you have, and I know you have asked these questions.
Because nobody else does, and we were punished when we were little players, because we didn't ask these questions, and we were at big people tables when we were little shits. And what did we do what happened to us when we didn't ask these questions? We went off into the mountains, we went off into the swamps, we went off into the Great Plains, thinking that 30 days worth of beef jerky and some water will be plenty enough to be able to survive on, and then we all die of dysentery, plague, and starvation. And we eat the dwarf first because he has the highest calorie count. He's condensed calories, and then we eat the elf next because, well, that's some good lean meat. But then you have rabbit food poisoning problems.
No. You always make sure you take a half-elf druid.
Yes, and good berries.
Because when you decapitate them, you're completely healed.
Yeah.
This happened once in a game. The GM was the one who took care of leveling us up because he didn't trust us to do it. And we had quite a few new players, so he did all the leveling up to make sure all the math was right. And we came back and we're like, hey, we were all like at half or less health, and now we have full health. What had happened the game before is that our half-elf druid got decapitated by a giant. So it was a running joke that we were going to pick up a 6-pack of half-elf druids to be able to heal back. So yeah.
My groups, we were like, when I was in, I got a little shit. We were punished for not fucking covering all of our bases and traveling as though we were fucking going to go out there on a massive campaign. Because I guess when you play with a bunch of even older war gamers who sit there and go, do you plan on like what do you plan on doing? We're an adventuring party. You're about to experience the degradation of the march of the Grand French Army into Russia. We are just adventuring. You are going to feel misery and death and suffering and starvation. You didn't pack enough clothes. You didn't pack enough food. Everything sucks. Did you bring enough tents for everyone? I brought tents. The weather destroyed your tents. Oh God! And the orcs and the goblins are burning every village you encounter along the way. You are miserable. What do? turn around. We are going home. And now you're going to be harassed by the goblins and the orcs the entire way back as you turn tail and run back to civilization, like the French. And you're like, I don't like recreating the campaign of Napoleon. And like you think, but you guys are big bad adventurers. You should have planned better. How could we? You didn't give us anything. And now you know why I ask questions like, so can I start pasteurizing food in vast quantity? Well, we have magic is not dependable. We cannot depend on having good berries for the entire time. I am not feeding an entire army off of like 5 druids and some good berries. Well, that'll work. No, that is misery. Here, the only pleasure you will have for the next 6 weeks of marching is to eat 2 berries. Oh, now I don't feel so hungry. There is no pleasure in eating 2 goddamn cherries and then going on an 18-hour march. Fuck you. That's not fun. No, you want to sit down. You want to eat a goddamn ham. You want to eat, whatever the fuck you found in the. Hey, look, you found a dire boar. We kill it. We skin it. We eat it. But we have good berries. We don't need to worry about all that. We have a druid who feeds us bark and mushrooms. No, we are killing that ham now. That walking ham. We're gonna eat it now. I don't give a shit. We're having pork. We're having pork roast tonight, and everyone else. But we have magical. No. I have a Riga sustenance. That's a terrible idea. Get rid of that. Throw it in the garbage. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, oh, it's just this terrible idea. And I know I asked these questions because I was made to be utterly miserable as a youth playing these games, and so therefore, if I'm not packing enough goddamn gear, I'm like, yeah, if you aren't packing 100 pounds of gear as an adventurer, you're not trying hard enough.
And these 2 comments like ring, especially with myself, former military. Yes. These 2 comments are legit.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And when you have your GMs, punish you for not doing shit you didn't even know was a thing until you found out it was a thing. And now you know. I had to being taught this was not fun. I was not fun. Now I make other GMs miserable by asking all these goddamn questions and doing all this shit. Like, can we just get on to adventuring? This is adventuring.
So, and when we're looking at like a desert type thing, I'm going to go that way first before we circle back to the like the forest. Things that are extremely important, especially in the desert, is 1, water. Number 2, food. Now, food, you either have to, as you said, pack it in, or you have to, do the whole hunter-gatherer thing. But you also have to make sure that what you're gathering is not poisonous, either plant-wise or animal-wise. You also have to make sure that, snakes are a thing.
Yeah.
Snakes in the desert are a big thing. And most types of snakes that live in the desert are poisonous, because they have to kill their prey quickly.
Are we just pushing towards the idea that we're just realizing that every RPG and adventure is actually set in fantasy Australia?
Well, with the exception of drop bears, yes.
I mean, okay, think about it. We're all adventuring in Australia, where you go outside, everything's poisonous, everything's lethal. You go outside, there's an owlbear decides to just walk out from behind a tree and punch your head off because it's an owlbear. Dire wolves that appear out of a snowdrift and eat your cleric. Your wizard just is having a nice day, and a rock flies out of nowhere and just grabs it and drags it off to go do whatever the rock does to wizards. And you're just every day I wake up and pray I don't die for the wildlife.
And then you have your cleric sit down and having a meal, on watch, and a giant ant comes up and bites her on the butt. That type of thing happens too.
Yeah, we're all like, and the water is just as bad. Mountains are terrible. Like, oh, I'm going out in the mountains. Dragons, giants, some earth elemental decides to do, like, I'm taking a nap on this rock. The earth elemental grabs you and beats you against. I beat you to death on another rock, on another earth elemental.
and then if you then you're looking at a forest. You're looking at once again wolves, spiders, snakes. Then there's additional things: orcs, uh, goblins, dryads, forest spirits, the fae.
Oh yeah, there's no peace.
No peace at all. Granted, food and water wise, you're going to be better off just for the simple fact of if you have a ranger with you, they'll figure it out, or a survivalist with you. I know in other game systems that's what they're called. You've got a better than 75% chance of actually kind of making it through. But you also have to look at with resources, endangered species, druid groves. Though that is a huge, that can be a huge plus or minus for you. Because if depending on where you're at or what type of game you're playing, if you're playing in a game that DM James is running, all of his druids are evil.
I can believe that.
They want to reclaim everything back to nature, including all the towns and villages and hamlets. That it goes back. And once again, you're looking at the critters, the rodent wise. You've got even to the fact of that there's some crazy ones out there, Wolverines. It's crazy, especially in forests. You're more likely to find a lot more ambush type creatures. Now, Crafting Gamer hasn't said anything for a bit, so I'm gonna tap him for this, because in his area down toward the bottom is more of a forest wetlands. So once again, I'm going to tap into him to kind of give us some insight. And you're muted.
That explains a few things.
So if you want to give us a little bit of an idea of pluses and minuses that you're going to find in that type of a wetland / forest type area.
Oh, in wetlands, you are going, depending on the type of wetland, you have a much higher chance of finding edible plants and certain type of animals. Up through here, I'm not entirely sure about the animals unless you're lucky with fish. I don't know if we have crawdads, but some areas will have crawdads. But plants, there are several different edible plants that grow in those areas. A lot of, not necessarily the swampy areas, but where the forest stays damp during the spring. Mushrooms are a good place to be found around those areas. Let's see here. Moose love those areas. They eat a lot of the water plants themselves. Though as a player, you want to be careful, because it's a joke, but it's also not a joke when I say moose are bipolar. They will literally ignore you 99 times, 100 times, absolutely no reason. They will chase your ass down and stomp you to death for just literally no reason. Moose are bipolar. So they want to be careful as a player dealing with them. Raccoon, if you don't mind eating, from what I understand, is a greasy animal. Raccoon, they love watery, slightly swampy areas because of what you can find there for food wise. Your skunks are also known for looking for those areas because skunks also can find easy food there. So those areas always attract wildlife, so that's a huge boon. And if you know what to look for, you can find a lot of edible plants around those areas too, or even medicinal plants. Like I couldn't name it off the top of my head, and I wouldn't go looking for it right now, but I do know in those areas you can grab a plant that you can rub. I think it's on your joint. I believe anyway, it's on your joints to help reduce swelling.
Anti-inflammatories, yeah.
Yeah. So those areas can have a lot in them of benefit, but also can, like the moose, have a very big danger waiting for you too.
Now, one thing I definitely want to bring up with this when we're looking at the world building aspect is that you can go into as much depth or as shallow. You can go super deep or stay, shallow. On the surface, basically, of how far you want to go into it. You don't have to go full out. It's whatever works for you as a GM and what works for your players, and how deep you want to immerse them into the world, and how much time you want to spend immersing them. Wow, God, Jesus. Yeah. The comment was, oh, remember, time you see a mountain lion, it's too late. Others may be known that my last words will be,
Kitty.
Jeez.
Look, this is what failing your survival checks and your knowledge checks gets you. You walk up there, oh, hey, look at the big giant kitty. He's got big giant paws. He's all fluffy, and I like him. He wants to be my friend. And oh no, my face.
Mistakes were made.
I calculated my odds, but boy, am I bad at math.
Well, and then when you're looking at some of the downsides weather-wise, because we mentioned this with the mountain, on the weather side, in forests, you have a lot more that you can play with. You could tornadoes, ice storms, you can run the full gambit with that. And if you're looking at desert, sandstorms. Sandstorms are great just because they can throw out a lot of different things there that will make people go, wait, what? And try to figure out exactly what it is that they're going to do, because oh yeah, there's a sandstorm coming. Oh, we're going to go around it. Oh no, you don't understand. It's a sandstorm, miles wide, wind picking up, throwing everything around. Most of the critters are hiding, except for that pack of Tarrasque out there on the horizon.
Yeah, I was about to say, and don't forget what you can find in the storm.
Yes, a pack of Tarrasque.
Mm-hmm. Because especially in a D&D world, there'll be things strong enough to weather that storm, and we'll take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And you'll also have travelers who will be using different types of vehicles across the desert too, not necessarily on foot. They may actually be using those storms to, using the wind created by those storms to keep them ahead of it and push them along to traverse the desert.
The moment you mentioned traveler, I'm just imagining some TL11 and some traveler on an air raft flying through the mountains, thinking he's all fantastic because he's fantastic, and he realizes that oopsie doodle, a a +1 to stat +1 to roll. I am minus conditions due to wind, storm, and other things. And oh man, where are we gonna find an anti-grav plate for my aircraft? In the middle of this mountain range. Meanwhile, a bunch of TL2 and TL3 savages look at you, with their Bronze Age equipment. You're sitting here going, "Hi, do any of you have a small fusion pack so that way I can repair my car out here in the mountains?" I didn't bring enough food. All I have is a bag of potato chips and this survival tent. Oh no, this is not going to end well.
Or, I mean, and to be honest, there are some other things you might find, out in the desert that are, and this happens to be a game I really enjoy. And of course, it's going to be stupid. What the picture? There we go. And when you're looking at, especially traveling across the desert, you might see things that are either wind powered, or you may see things that are, like this, that are walkers that walk across the desert. And yes, this is from a game called Last Oasis, which is in the desert.
That sounds that thing looks cool.
But yeah, you have walkers. Yeah, well, it's if you think about it, this is a way. This is kind of a mobile base. This is kind of the equivalent to a ship on the sea. So I mean, there's definitely things that you can actually take out of other genres that will work. I'm sorry, this right here screams D&D or screams a fantasy type setting.
Well, admittedly, most of my game is based off of flying in the skies, but a lot of the four great nations, each of them have their own literally bigger than Pangea continent. So each one of them will have a little more of an in-depth section of land-based vehicles, and I think adding that to my game would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that you can it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, you can definitely take things from different. You can pluck things from different genres. Like myself, I like to pluck things from books that I really like. For instance, Dresden. I'll pluck stuff from Bubba the Monster Hunter, which if you've not read those shorts and everything else, they're amazing. Nothing like a redneck working for the Catholic Church going after monsters. I'm just going to say that. And you can use different tools. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can put your own spin on things. You can put your own flair on things. And that is definitely things that you can do to help pull immersion. Especially if you've got someone who's doing like an artificer type, something along those lines of like that walker, that would get them really excited and immersed in, because you don't necessarily have to have that just for the desert. You could have that, smaller versions to go, across land. Maybe there was a blight and took out all the horses on a continent, and this is how they travel across the continent now. It comes within the world building. It comes within that sphere. pull my stuff back up here. And then when you're looking at things, you're also looking at oceans. If you're going to talk about deserts, you've got to bring oceans into it. So you've got ship travel, you've got the monsters of the deep. If you really want to throw stuff out there, throw some deep ones out there on stuff like that. You can look at how trade works, how the weather works. Especially trade with oceans, that can be very interesting, especially if you want to pull some politics in. These two ports will not send goods to each other officially. They may hire some outside third-party people to actually run the stuff back and forth, so the trade's still there. Who knows? And in looking at that, I know Kai has done, in some of his games, has done some oceanic type stuff. So Kai, what type of things do you look at and do you like to bring in to those kind of the oceanic / high seas type areas?
As much as I like to say yes, I do. I do have fun, with deep sea, with the wonderful trade currents and merchants and slight bits of imperialism. The idea of the big giant warships and sailing, but I also really like the idea of lost sunken continents, undersea empires, and other weird stuff. After all, we're playing fantasy. I want to have the giant sea turtle islands. I want to have a giant statue that walks along the bottom of the ocean that comes up periodically every 10 years. No one knows why, but no, there's a reason why. There's a very, very, very important reason why this one statue comes out of the water every 10 years and then disappears back into the ocean. Nobody's ever around when it actually does it, or, well, some people are, but those who are there don't ever say why, because they don't want to explain it. I want to have weird events. I want to have your wonderful. I want a place for your sea elves to have their underwater mermaid kingdoms and other weird stuff. I want to have my krakens and my tentacle creatures that come out of the water and grab boats and drag them back into the ocean. I want to make the ocean scary, and I love the idea that the words "Here there be dragons" is actually true. Yeah, the world's round. The world has adventuring in it, but every once in a while you got to worry about the sea, a sea god just coming out of the water and looking at you funny as it towers over you. This monstrous elemental lord of death just kind of looks at you funny and decides that you're not worth its attention. I want to have the places where Cthulhu actually sleeps, waiting for his turn to come up. I want to have the idea that sailing is not just something that you just do because you want to, but it's because you're actually brave enough to go out into it. I want people to just go. I don't want someone to sit back and I like the idea that maybe in the world that I'm playing in, people build high speed transports and ships that just drive quick because they're afraid of the giant sea spider in the middle of a whirlpool that will reach out and snare your ship. So the idea of, if we go faster than 12 knots, we'll actually outrun most of the nautical life out there. Most. Meanwhile, you have designers who are going, magical designers going, I'm going to build the fastest ship I can, not because I want to be able to get across the ocean quick, but because I want to outrun Poseidon. And seeing the idea that sailing ships are building these monstrous clipper vessels, not to design to deliver tea fast from a faraway shore, but because that intelligent killer whale swarm out there is going to eat us. I want the idea that people are scared of rogue waves and are actually building ships that are designed to climb up there with enough, the idea of, well, shit, things are going wrong. And I like this. Like, I like the idea that I want the hidden islands. I want the lost kingdoms out there, and the idea that you're just traveling across this beautiful, vast, flat, wet thing. Oh my god! I just quoted Muppet Treasure Island there. the big
Traveling on the big blue wet thing.
thing. Yep, and it's like, and the idea that it explains why so many of the D&D ships and so many fantasy ships are designed for inland, close in, you're never far from shore, because if you at least near shore, at least on the continental shelf, you're safe. The moment you go out into the deep, you either have like a druid or an elf, or a waystone or something that's going to help you navigate. Because let's be honest, none of us who play these games, do we actually go and buy a clock that's designed to go out to sea? Most of us don't have the idea. Most of us don't have the idea that, and usually the most powerful empire in the game is the one that asks the question of, can we tell time on a boat? And most of the time, most players go, I don't need to, and then they go out into the ocean and we never see them again. They're all consumed because and it's like, and I like that, because if there's one thing that no game has given us yet, is a magical solution to navigation, and I'm so proud of that, because our designers are all retards and never had to go out there. They just assume that, well, obviously I go west and my compass is perfect, right? That will never do me wrong. No, you're about to die, and I love it.
I understand
All
that.
right.
But Kai's right. I didn't have any magical means to do navigation.
You have to. You have to be able to tell time. You have to be able to know where you're at all times. Or you end up lost horribly. Or you're following rudders and you're doing weird and you're following weird landmarks. You're trying to follow tides and wind currents. And that's not always the most safest thing. And you might end up, wrecked on a shoal you never thought about, and it's wonderful. And I love when my players who just go, we are never getting on a boat. Why? None of us know boats. We don't want to be on a boat because boats are deadly and dangerous, and the world is scary. We like the shore. The shore is our friend. The shore doesn't sink. and I'm just like, cowards.
Oh, your characters, your players would be even worse in my game, because you sink in my game, there is very little chance of rescue. You better hope to God that ship has a lifeboat or two.
Right, but the thing here is that you've also designed it for that. But you also have Pangea-sized continents for them to wander around if they don't want to be in the air. And so, plus you don't really have water. Your ships fly. So you kind of take it's the same logic of, I'm going to go fly on an airplane. I don't really care. Like, I'm not really worried about crashing. Why? Because I'm not going to survive it. So it's going to be about 3 minutes of terror, and then it's over. Meanwhile, if you sink on the boat, you might have weeks of sitting out there dying. I mean, God, suck.
Okay, fair.
And who knows? You may sink down to the clouds and find out there's a big happy place full of feathers and candy. And no, we're just telling you that so that way you don't scream for 10 hours as you fall into the star and right into the plant.
Though I'm not going to give too many spoilers. The scary part about that is humans can survive the pressure beneath the lower layer of clouds. Those ships can't.
Oh. That's even more fun about the idea of you'll never escape. It's kind of like falling down a bottomless pit. After a while, you stop screaming. The initial acceleration has passed, and you've now reached the terminal velocity. You're not going to feel it anymore. You're just going to be falling. Your frame of reference is now just falling. What do you have, unless there's a sudden stop at the bottom, or do you slowly slow to whatever? I don't know, but like I said, there's a certain point where you just don't feel it anymore. You're just descending, forever, and you might as well just take a nap or shoot yourself or stab yourself. I don't know. How do the gods in your world feel about suicide?
At this particular moment in time, I've decided not to add gods. The closest thing to that are the sunkin, who worship the suns.
Okay, cool. So there's no real pain and suffering about the idea of, well, everybody carries a dagger meant to kill themselves with when they sing.
And also refrain from using the S word.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's unalive themselves.
It's unalive?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So I think we've hit a lot of the high points here that I think we wanted to hit. Next week, we are going to have Bear the Gen X GM along with GM Cody with us. So if you're not subscribed to them, definitely go and subscribe to them. I did do on the TableBreakers YouTube actual channel on the community posts. There's the links there to their profiles and whatnot. We are going to be finally doing a playthrough of Heroic. I believe everyone has their characters fleshed out.
Yes.
Yeah. I even had a little help from Bear's Discord.
Nice. So yeah, we're going to be rolling through that. We're going to bring that to you here. This is a little bit of a shorter episode tonight, and I apologize. I've been up for well over 24 hours now, and my brain's starting to. So I apologize. But a couple of housekeeping things. Number one, this past Monday, Kai and I did the first episode of the Kai Files. So if you've not seen that, definitely go check that out. It's on my and Kai's page, where we're actually doing some actually nuts and bolts type things, more of a deep dive as opposed to like things along these lines, where we're looking at gameplay mechanics and things along those lines to kind of figure out what works, what doesn't work. Also, we are looking at the we did defense this past week, not this Monday, but the following Monday. So we're going to be doing that every 2 weeks. We're going to be looking at offensive capabilities. So I figure we do the flip side on that for it. So definitely make sure you do check us out. Make sure you are checking Bruce out on Saturday and Sunday. He has moved. If you folks are not aware, him and Janet are now doing the guy and a girl and a movie on Sunday afternoons. So make sure you do check that out. Of course, Bruce's games on Saturday. Those of you that are in them know it. Those of you that like to enjoy watching it, enjoy the way Bruce presents things, definitely make sure you check that out. I want to thank everybody for taking some time to spend a little time with us talking about things we love about, which is tabletop role-playing games. So TTG, TCG, I'll get it out right. What do you got coming up this week?
This week, I'm not producing a video. It'll be next week. But it's going to be one of Kai's favorite subjects, the Zentradi. The Zentradi War Cruisers, starting with the Zentradi flagship.
All right. Not wrong. I like ships.
And Kai, do you have anything you've got coming up in the Discord? You can find the link to it's in Bruce's Discord. That's where we're kind of housing everything for Table Breakers still. You can find Chimerian's Musings there. And that's where we'll be posting stuff as a reminder for the Kai Files also. If you've got things that you guys want us to talk about on the Kai Files, or even this show, let us know. You know, if there's a subject that you really want us to set and kind of dig our teeth into, we'll definitely do that. So just let us know, and we will definitely do that for you. And is there anything hot and crazy that's coming up in the blog posts, or are you still kind of taking it as it goes?
Take it as it goes. Plus, I just need something to talk about, honestly, most of the time. And considering that this is also my week to just meander for 4 hours with Bruce.
There you go. Check out Kai. Wow, Kai, three episodes this week. All right.
I know. Next week I'll have
Crazy.
one, and I will sleep. This week I do not. Every other week I sleep.
All right, guys. Thank you much. Definitely appreciate you guys joining us. And we will catch you next week for a little bit of heroicness. Have a great
I
week.
look forward to it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.